I've got the exact same character model here on screen twice. One of them has this little highlight to it, which removes it from the background, makes it a little easier to see, especially at a bit of a difference. It stands out just a little bit more. And the other one is just a little bit more flat. What we're doing here is a cinematic technique called backlighting, where usually you would place a light behind a subject to create this little highlighting halo around the head and shoulders area so that it comes loose from the background. This actually is a very useful technique in video games as well, but we can't use a proper actual light for every character that we have in our game. So what we'll do instead today is we'll go over something to do in a material that kind of emulates the exact same look. And the upside of it is it works under any angle. No matter how I look at this thing, it's always going to have this edge highlighting. Now, when I say edge highlighting, I don't mean the black outline that you see around the character. That's just part of my cel shaded look. What I'm specifically talking about is this lighter edge on the top of the character that makes it come loose from the background. Again, as you can see, this one also has the black outline, and while it does help separating it from the background, this backlighting technique really goes the extra mile. Now we're here in an entirely empty project. I'm going to start off by making a material for us to work with. I'm going to call this m_master character. So this could be the master material that we make instances of for every single character in the game. We need to do a couple of things to get that edge highlighting. First, we need to find the edges of our geometry. And what is the edge of a geometry? Well, it's a part of the geometry that is facing perpendicular or near perpendicular away from our current camera's perspective. This area over here is facing toward the camera, so that wouldn't be part of the edge. The outsides here are facing about 90 degrees away or near 90 degrees away from the direction that our camera is looking at this object, so this would now be the edge. If I rotate this around, now this is the edge, and so on and so forth. So how do we do that? Well, there is actually a built-in node called Fresnel that more or less just does that for us. If we put this into the base color and we set this to unlit so that we don't have any weird lighting information messing with what we're looking at, you can see that that is what the Fresnel node does. This is good, this is fine. We can even increase this exponent into like 8, for instance, and you will see that the little edge becomes thinner. If we set this to 16 or something like that, it becomes super thin. The way that I prefer to do it for this method is we actually make our own Fresnel, and then we have a bit more control over the different values that we're going to be using to refine that edge. And it's super easy to do that. We can just get a camera vector node, and that will be our camera vector in world space. This is just the direction that our camera is looking in world space. And if we then get our vertex normal in world space as well, we now have the direction of our camera, and we have the direction of any given point on our 3D mesh, so we can compare those to each other. And we can do that with a dot product. And you will see that that essentially just does the same thing. It does it inverted from the Fresnel node that we had before, but we can see the outside edge is now black, however we look at it, and the inside is entirely white. If we were to just invert this, we pretty much get a Fresnel effect, just with different fall off. And that's why I actually like doing it this way, because if we now add in a power node, and then we add in a multiplication node along with that, we now get the power, pun intended, to say, hey, I want to actually set this to like the 5th power instead. And we multiply that by something like 50. You can see we now have much more control over making this an edge that is as thick and as sharp as we need it to be. Again, if we set this back to being 2, it becomes a super but sharp edge. So this power is pretty much the thickness of the edge now. So let's keep this at a power of 5. And this multiplication is the sharpness of the edge. So if we keep this at 2, it's a very gradual edge. It also does impact the actual thickness of it. So it's a bit of a balance between these two values. But as my multiplication goes down, you can see we get this smoother transition. We want this to be relatively sharp though. So we set this to something like 25 to maybe even 50. relatively sharp without it being super sharp. You want a little bit of a gradient in there. Now, what's good to do here is we have a bunch of values that might be over 1 on the edge here and under 0 in the middle here. They'll just display as pure black or pure white, but they might interfere with some of the stuff that we're going to be doing later. So before even doing this inversion with 1 minus x, we can add in a saturate node, and that just clamps everything to values between 0 and 1. So when we start multiplying this or using this to loop between different things, nothing unexpected is going to be happening. So now we have a much sharper, much more controllable outside edge of our mesh. But we don't want the outside edge to always be highlighted. We only want the outside edges that face upward to be highlighted, because the idea of a backlight is that you have a light behind your character that's a little bit up from where it is. That way it will highlight the top of the head, the shoulders, the tops of the arms, that kind of thing, and not things like the chin of your character and the bottoms of the arms, and maybe even like bits of the chest. You don't really want to be highlighting those. So we need to mask this in a way where we only really remain with this top part of the circle and not the bottom part. And the way we do that is we once again get the vertex normal in world space. You could do this with the pixel normal as well, by the way. If you have a normal map and you want that to be taken into account for all this highlighting, using pixel normal here should work just fine. Then we take the dot product of that again, because we're going to be comparing what direction any given face, or again, pixel if you prefer, is facing. And we're going to be comparing that to just a static value of 0, 0, and 1. The way that you can get these nodes, by the way, if you don't know, just holding down 3 on your keyboard and clicking adds a vector 3 node. And this, you might be used to using this as a color. This is blue. But this is not just blue, this is also a direction, because it is a direction that points 0 in the x direction, 0 in the y direction, but 1 in the up direction. So this is now a value that represents the up direction in world space. If we get a dot product from that, we'll actually be able to see, previewing that, it shows us pretty much a mask of just the top of our mesh, fading all the way to 0 at the middle portion, and then technically all the way down to -1 at the bottom here. Again, to ensure nothing funky happens, because we're going below a value of 0 here, all the way down to -1, we want to just saturate this. You're not going to be seeing a visual difference here. It still is just going to look as black, but this ensures no values under 0 are actually being given through. Now with those two things both in place, we can just multiply these together to use this as a mask on our outside edge. So multiply this with this, put that in our base color, and now we will see we have the outside edge, and it is being masked, even with a little bit of a gradient, to only be at the top, which is pretty much what we want to have happen. So fantastic, we have our little mask for the outside edge highlight. Now all that we need to do is we just give this thing a input texture. Let's pretend like this is an input texture. We're just going to make it like a light, maybe even like a slightly darker tint of purple as a solid color. Again, in real scenarios, this would be a texture parameter where you input the texture for your character for this material. And then depending on how you want to do this, you can either adjust this input texture by making it brighter wherever we have this mask overlapping with it, or you can use the emissive color to make it actually light up a little bit. There's pros and cons to both. If you're using Lumen Global Illumination, the emissive color will actually emit the light into the world, which might not be what you want for this specific situation. That might look a little bit weird. But if you're not using Lumen, the emissive color actually has the upside that it ignores any lighting conditions. So it will even have those highlights in dark areas. And since we're doing this to be able to, well, remove characters a little bit from the background to make them stand out a little bit, especially in darker areas, it might be nice if it has that highlighted edge. If I turn off my post-processing here, which has a bunch of tone mapping stuff going on in it, you can see in even this fairly dark area, I can still see the outlines of my character fairly well, because it is actually running off of the emissive output from the material. If I was just using base color, this would also kind of disappear into the darkness. So that's a consideration that's entirely up to you. Do you want to add it onto the base color, or do you want to have it as the emissive color? Either way, it works fine. We're going to go with the emissive color for now. And we first and foremost multiply that with our mask that we've made here. So once we multiply that, I'm going to set my base color for a moment just back to black so that we can see what's happening here, and put this into the emissive color. We see that we have this purple little highlight. If we have the base color put back in, that immediately already works as a little bit of highlighting. And if this were a texture, it would actually be the same color as your base texture, just a little bit brighter. Now we can take this and multiply it with a value. Just holding down 1 and clicking gets you a scalar value like this. And let's just call this value of 1 by default. Right click this to convert it to a parameter, and that will be our highlight power. And this way we can say, well, actually I want it to be brighter for a specific material instance. You just set this to 2 and now it's brighter. 10, it's even brighter, and so on and so forth. A nice little addition that you can do on top of all that is add in a second vector3 node. Just convert this to a parameter as well and call this highlight tint. We'll call the default value here just black, and we're going to be adding that to our highlights just easily like that. Now we do the same thing here. We multiply this highlight tint first with the output from our little mask that we've made here. So that way what we get is, just setting this to a different color real quick, like, I don't know, green, which we'd expect here. Again, our edge highlighting in the color that we have. And then we can multiply that once again with another scalar, promote it to a parameter. We can call this like tint power or something like that. Again, set it by default to 1. And that's going to be what we add in to this over here. And now it's going to be adding this tint in the same highlight as whatever input texture we have. Now, since these are just solid colors, it ends up just kind of being white because these are exactly opposite each other. So that's maybe not a great way to show that. But if we just do something like a slightly blue, you can see that the highlight color becomes just a little bit more blue, which might be a bit more what you're looking for in your highlighting color. And that is pretty much the entire material. It's fairly basic. It's actually not that much of a setup to deal with. So if we apply this and we make a material instance of this, you can see in the preview, by the way, that immediately it looks pretty good. Let's make a material instance for test material of this. And if we then open that up, we can start choosing the highlight power and the highlight tint of our material that we have here. So we can set the tint for this material instance maybe to be a little bit more on the red side. Maybe we want the tint to be a little bit more subtle, so we pull it back a little bit. The whole power is maybe a bit much as is, so maybe we decrease that. It's an effect that you probably want to be relatively subtle, but it is an effect that still will help you separate things from the background elements. You could even parameterize this power and multiplier if you wanted to be able to, on an individual material instance basis, control how thick this highlight actually becomes. So we can put this in here, base value 5, convert to parameter, call this Fresnel power, and then do another one. I think this was a value of 50 before. Convert to parameter, Fresnel multiplier. And now with those, we can even say, okay, I want this to start being different for this material as well. So maybe this needs to be a thinner band like this. You can actually see this update in real time a little bit. So now it's a bit of a softer fall off for this because we're only multiplying this by 5 and then the power is 2. And it just makes it easy to kind of control this a little bit better. Maybe even add in some parameters to control the strength of the up and down mask. Maybe sometimes you want only the very tops to be highlighted. Maybe sometimes you do actually want it to take in a little bit of the bottom into consideration. Knock yourself out, be creative with this stuff. But now if we add in, let's say, just a character mannequin, just this one over here, for instance, and we give it our material instance that we made here. So that would be our test material instance. Just give it those as materials. We will see that it has a little bit of that highlighting on its head right there. And it's not actually lighting, because if we go into unlit mode, we can see it still very much is there. And once again, you can actually open our material instance side by side with our world view. And we can start saying, well, actually in the world, I very much prefer if we have it looking a little bit more like this. And you can see that it updates entirely in real time. Going back into lit mode, maybe that's where we want to change it a little bit more. And you can start dialing this in specifically on a per material, on a per character basis. But again, we now have something that is highlighted on the edges a little bit. And it will be on any angle that we look at it, at any distance that we look at it. Obviously, at a very large distance, it's not that noticeable. It's a useful little shader technique that I hope is going to help you make your games just look a little bit better as well. And a very big thank you to all my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help support the channel or get any of the project files in any of my tutorials, there's a link down below to the Patreon page to support me, or alternatively as a YouTube member. My Cave student tier supporters, Oiku, Earl, Monserville Erno, and my Cave Digger tier supporters, Mauricio Farias and Chang Dedu.